In September of 2009, a critical event unfolded in the rugged terrain of the Shuryak Valley in Kunar province, Afghanistan. A powerful Blackhawk helicopter, on its mission to rescue wounded Marines, found itself under intense fire from Taliban militiamen. The situation on the ground was dire. The defending forces were outnumbered, and the Blackhawk's position became increasingly perilous amid the escalating firefight. In this tense moment, pilot Patrick Benson made a sudden and unexpected appearance in the most surprising of helicopters, barely suited for the situation. His Bell OH-58, typically used for light reconnaissance, entered the fray. Despite its compact size, the OH-58 was no stranger to combat. It could be armed with an array of weapons, including Stinger air-to-air missiles, a 50-caliber machine gun, potted 70mm Hydra rockets, and AGM-114 Hellfire air-to-ground missiles. It was a bold move, and Benson drew the enemy's fire towards the small helicopter, risking his life to protect the wounded Marines. The OH-58 took several hits, with its nose being punctured by small arms fire, injuring both Benson and his co-pilot. Despite his injuries, Benson persisted in his efforts, ensuring the Blackhawk could safely evacuate the area. This act of bravery and dedication to his fellow soldiers would later earn Benson and his co-pilot the accolades they rightly deserved. Moreover, this incident showcased the resilience and dependability of the OH-58, aptly nicknamed the Kiowa Warrior. The Ugly Duckling. Following the success of the American-made helicopters deployed during the Far East campaigns of World War II, the military envisioned and developed several types of rotary-wing aircraft tailored for different uses. Besides providing transport for troops and carrying supplies for logistical support, such as the Korean War-era Sioux or the future Chinook, helicopters began to be employed for retrieving other helicopters and aircraft, and even delivering artillery and ground vehicles across difficult terrain. Others, such as the future Bell AH-1 Cobra, would find their purpose as gunships armed to the teeth, ready to provide immediate fire support to Allied ground troops and effectively decimate the enemy. As American involvement in Vietnam increased, the United States Navy commenced looking for a replacement for the Bell OH-13 Sioux and Hiller OH-23 Raven for the reconnaissance role. Both helicopters had been successfully used during the Korean War for medevac or medical evacuation. However, they struggled with their piston engines, offering a maximum output of 250 shaft horsepower. On behalf of the Army, the U.S. Navy approached over 20 helicopter manufacturers for the submission of proposals for a light observation helicopter, or LOH. The designs had to be powered by an Allison 250C 20B free turbine engine, and their primary role was to be the eyes in the skies for military intelligence. Besides reconnaissance, the rotary-wing aircraft had to be capable of ground attack, transport, and medical evacuation roles. Of the 12 helicopter manufacturers that entered the competition, only 3 were shortlisted. Bell presented the YOH-4A, or Model 206, Hughes the YOH-6A Model 369, and Hiller the YOH-5A FH-1100. Bell produced 5 prototypes of its helicopter that were tested thoroughly in 1962. During its maiden flight, Army and Navy personnel referred to the YOH-4A as the Ugly Duckling when compared to its competitors. It was not a good omen. Ranger to the rescue. After testing the Bell, Hiller, and Hughes helicopters, the Army ultimately settled for the Hughes OH-6 Cayuse Loach in May 1965. Despite the Army's decision, Dave Ostrovsky, an Army aeronautical engineer in the LOH contest, said in issue 10 of Takeoff magazine that Bell's model, quote, sprang off the ground like a homesick angel. It had power, speed, and maneuverability. It felt good. It was a super ship to fly. Nevertheless, it was not over yet for Bell. They knew their helicopter had potential, and the company decided to market it for civilian use. But first, the engineers had to redesign the Ugly Duckling to attract customers. The displeasing bubble-face canopy and small fuselage had to be reshaped to be easier on the eye, provide more space for the cramped quarters of the 3 passengers, and ample cargo space. In January 1966, Bell presented a redesigned fuselage and dubbed the new helicopter the Model 206A Jet Ranger. The fuselage was more aesthetically pleasing, added over 16 cubic feet of cargo space for luggage, and made the passenger compartment more pleasing, providing enough space for up to 5 people. Furthermore, the Jet Ranger was also modified internally. It was now powered by a 317-horsepower Allison 250C-18 engine. The Ranger had its maiden flight the same month and experienced no issues. It became a bestseller in the coming months, becoming a familiar sight around the United States. The Jet Ranger was adopted by the government, forest services, law enforcement, news broadcasters, and tour companies. Bell's Jet Ranger became so recognizable that even Italian manufacturer Agusta acquired the production rights to fly the Jet Ranger over the skies of Europe. In January 1968, Bell scored big when the Jet Ranger was solicited by the U.S. Navy to come up with a modified variant for flight training. Over 40 TH-57 Sea Rangers were produced, and there was more to come for Model 206. The Kiowa. While Bell's Jet Ranger flew thousands of people across the U.S. without incidents, Hughes' OH-6A Cayuse struggled in Southeast Asia. The fighting in Vietnam had turned into a meat grinder. In January 1968, the North Vietnamese launched a mass offensive during the Tet New Year festivities, and dozens of cities were sieged by the Communist forces. Thanks to the effectiveness of the Ho Chi Minh Trail, the North Vietnamese army was now supplied and equipped with modern Soviet and Chinese equipment, including anti-aircraft countermeasures that were making quick work of the American OH-6A Cayuses. The Cayuse was exposed to enemy fire during scouting and artillery fire correction missions, making it an easy target for hidden Viet Cong or NVA troops. Casualties for Hughes' helicopter were piling up, and the company could not keep up with production and its costs. The Army reopened the LOH competition because Hughes could not meet production demands. Bell submitted its upgraded Model 206 Jet Ranger and won the contract. It was designated OH-58A and named the Kiowa, following the Army's tradition of honoring Native American tribes. The OH-58 Kiowa was delivered to Army inventories in May 1969. It had a length of 34 feet, a width of 35 feet, and a height of 12.9 feet. The Scout helicopter had a weight of 3,289 pounds. Compared to its civilian variant, the Kiowa featured military instruments, multiple radios, Army olive drab livery, and deflecting blades above the canopy and below the nose to avoid crashes with electrical wires. The Kiowa was also powered by an Allison T-63A700 engine rated at 315 horsepower, mounted atop and to the rear of the passenger cabin. The cockpit was well forward and provided all-around visibility for the pilot and co-pilot, thanks to the large windscreens and the option to remove hinged side doors. Changing the mission. Behind the cockpit, the passenger cabin featured entry-exit doors and enough room for 3 soldiers or 2 medical litters. The first Kiowa variant featured a flexible twin-bladed main rotor that would later be replaced with a 4-bladed one with the OH-58D model. The first batch of Kiowas arrived in Vietnam in August 1969 to support the Hughes Cayuse in the reconnaissance, observation, and medical evacuation roles. The Kiowas were lightly armed with either an M129 40mm automatic grenade launcher or a powerful 7.62mm M134 minigun that could fire up to 4,000 rounds a minute. During a North Vietnamese offensive in April 1972, John Paul Vann, a U.S. civilian advisor who often piloted Kiowas, directly coordinated the attack of AC-130s, jet fighters, Cobras, and Hueys to destroy enemy formations trying to overrun Firebase Delta in the Highlands. In his book, A Bright Shining Lie, author Neil Sheehan recalls that Vann, unsatisfied with providing guidance for U.S. aircraft, began stocking his Kiowa with as many supplies as the helicopter could handle to deliver them to Firebase Delta. 6 times, the brave man in his Kiowa delivered ammunition and other supplies to the besieged troops under enemy ground fire. Weeks later, Vann and his Kiowa were landed in a ravine to extract U.S. and South Vietnamese advisors while enemy tanks approached. The helicopter escaped unscratched. But Vann's luck soon ran out. On June 9, 1972, he and his entire crew were lost when his Kiowa crashed into a hill due to low visibility and light rain. Over 310 Kiowas served in Vietnam between 1969 and 1973. More than 50 of them were combat losses. The Warrior. Following the end of the Vietnam War, the US and NATO prepared for a possible large-scale Soviet invasion of Western Europe. The Soviets had anti-air defenses that were far more effective than the highly effective Strela II man-portable air defense system. This led to an improved variant of the Kiowa, equipped with an AN/APR-39A radar warning receiver to inform the crew about enemy radars and night vision goggles for night operations. A more powerful engine made the helicopter faster and more maneuverable. This was the Charlie variant, or OH-58C. Nevertheless, This variant did not solve the armament issue the Kiowa faced since Vietnam. Meanwhile, the Army was hard at work introducing the iconic UH-60 Blackhawk and the AH-64 Apache. In 1981, the Army helicopter program upgraded the Kiowa with sophisticated sensors, a thermal imager, a laser designator, and the iconic MMS, or mast-mounted sight, that made the Kiowa easily recognizable. The Kiowa Warrior, or the OH-58D variant, was fitted with a Rolls-Royce T703 AD700A turboshaft engine, providing 650 horsepower and a top speed of 149 miles per hour. It had a range of 345 miles and a service ceiling of over 15,000 feet. The Warrior packed some punch and was armed with 12 7mm machine guns in either M296 or M3P mounts, Hellfire-guided anti-tank missiles, Hydra 70 high-explosive unguided rockets, and Ames 92 Stinger air-to-air missiles. During the 1980s and 1990s, over 400 Kiowas were upgraded to the Warrior variant, becoming crucial for their new armed light scout role during the conflicts of the Middle East in the same decade. Iraq and Iran were engulfed in a power struggle that resulted in U.S. involvement in providing escort services to merchant ships. The Kiowas were bound for the Persian Gulf. Reagan's war on drugs. Kiowa Warriors replaced other helicopters for Operation Prime Chance during the Iran-Iraq War. The objective was to escort oil tankers. From February to September 1988, the Kiowas patrolled the Persian Gulf, but were never engaged by the Iranian Navy. During these operations, the Kiowas cooperated with Task Force 118 Little Birds, locating and evading enemy vessels. 1 year later, in 1989, they returned to the Middle East when Iraq invaded Kuwait. As Operation Desert Shield turned into Operation Desert Storm, over 115 Kiowas were deployed for different combat roles. Like in Vietnam, the Kiowas spotted Iraqi objectives for Apache helicopters and other attack aircraft to hunt them down. They also provided artillery fire correction to properly strike the enemy. No Kiowa Warrior was lost in combat during the conflict against Iraq in the Gulf War. During this time, the Kiowas were also dispatched to the U.S. following President Reagan's war on drugs policy. The National Guard Bureau created reconnaissance and aerial interdiction detachments, or raids, of which over 80 were Kiowas, that conducted more than 1,200 counter-drug reconnaissance and interdiction operations. At the dawn of the 21st century, the Kiowas were again deployed to the Middle East as part of the War on Terror. The OH-58D became part of the air units participating in Operation Iraqi Freedom and Operation Enduring Freedom in Afghanistan. According to Bell, the Kiowas flew over 820,000 combat hours by April 2013. Over 35 helicopters were lost in combat operations and accidents before American retirement from Afghanistan. Drawing enemy fire. While in Afghanistan, Chief Warrant Officer Patrick Benson flew numerous reconnaissance and security missions on a Kiowa, becoming the eyes in the sky for American attack helicopters. In September 2009, Benson and his co-pilot were providing security and reconnaissance for infantry attacking Taliban troops in a mountain in what's known today as the Shuryak Valley. Benson left the area for a refuel, and minutes later, the Marines left behind were ambushed. During the fight, 2 Marines were hurt, and Benson was called again to provide medevac security. The Blackhawk helicopter dispatched to hoist up the wounded Marines was immediately attacked by the enemy, threatening the extraction. The men on the ground did what they could to fight off the enemy attack, but they were outnumbered, and the Blackhawk's safety turned precarious with every second that passed. It was then when Benson's Kiowa appeared out of nowhere and did the unthinkable for a light reconnaissance helicopter of its class. It began to draw enemy fire away from the Blackhawk. Soon, the small helicopter's nose was punctured by small arms fire, wounding Benson and leaving his co-pilot unconscious. Nevertheless, Benson did not falter and continued to assist until the Blackhawk safely evacuated the area. With his aircraft failing and his best man, Adam Stead, wounded, Benson landed at the nearest base to save his co-pilot and his Kiowa. Due to his extreme bravery shown in combat, Benson was awarded the American Legion Valor Award, proving that even a small helicopter, such as the Kiowa, can change the tide of battle if used properly. The Army officially retired the Kiowa from service in July 2020 after it selected the Bell 360 Invictus and Sikorsky's Raider 10 as possible replacements for the future attack reconnaissance aircraft program. Nevertheless, the Kiowa remains in operation with several allied nations across the globe, proving that after more than 50 years of service, it continues to excel as a reconnaissance helicopter. Thank you for watching our video. Please like and subscribe to our Dark Skies channel to watch more videos about American helicopters during the Vietnam War. Don't forget to hit the bell icon to be notified of our newest videos.